And instead of being a real leader and focused on solutions with Democrats,
that's not true, Maria.
he's focused on giving MAGA supporters what they want.
Maria, that's not true. I voted for Donald Trump, and I don't want cruelty and division. I want law and order, and I want an immigration system that works for the United States.
With Democrats.
Because it's the same stuff every other would-be authoritarian leader does in every country that has had to contend with a leader like that.
Of having a man be inaugurated to be president on the same day as we commemorate MLK. And that same man saying that he was going to get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
The conversation you intend to have and the script you intend to read for the next 4 years, you are going to continue to get politically punished.
Well, as CNN continues to be absolutely insanely obsessed with January 6th, we're going to watch our boy Scott Jennings absolutely mop the floor with Maria Cordova after she has some wild takes and wild claims. And then we're going to get to some of the mainstream media, can we call them meltdowns? Whatever they are. These people are not coping very well. Rachel Madcow, Kaitlan Collins, the harpies of The View. Hopefully soon they won't be on TV and I'll have to do something else to get content because these people infuriate me. Let's get to our boy Scott Jennings.
Because while the American people do want this fixed, when you talk about mass deportations and they realize who is going to be caught in this dragnet of cruelty, which are the dreamers, business owners, first responders, teachers, the people in our community, community leaders, the people who are injecting trillions of dollars into our economy, long-standing families who have roots in our communities, the American people absolutely reject that. And that is something that we need to figure out. So again, if Donald Trump and Republicans were really focused on a solution, this is not it, which is why I believe at the end of the day, the cruelty and the pain and the division is what Trump is after, because that is what his base wants. And instead of being a real leader and focused on solutions with Democrats,
that's not true, Maria.
he's focused on giving MAGA supporters what they want.
Maria, that's not true. I voted for Donald Trump, and I don't want cruelty and division. I want law and order, and I want an immigration system that works for the United States.
With Democrats,
Donald Trump is not interested in deporting people who are here legally, people who have followed all the rules. They're interested in primarily, right out of the gate, two populations: violent criminals and people who have existing adjudicated deportation orders. That's millions of people, and I refuse to accept the farcical argument that the U.S. economy is underpinned by rapists, murderers, and people who are awaiting deportation. It's just not true.
But you mentioned pain, both of you did, and there is a lot of pain being felt by the 140 police officers who were attacked during the January 6th attack on the Capitol. When it comes to law and order, Donald Trump's spoken about it many times. Republicans have always said that they are the party of law and order. How can that be now after seeing that all of those who took part in that attack, those who were violent as well, have been pardoned by Donald Trump or their sentences commuted? First to you, Scott.
Well, first of all, I don't particularly care for what happened on January the 6th. I didn't like it the day that it happened. I don't like it today. I think it was a terrible day. I don't think the people who participated in it should have done that, and it should never happen again. That's number one. Number two, the people who did participate in it, by and large, all face some kind of punishment. A great many, hundreds, thousands went to jail. Some have already been in jail and completed their sentence. Most were financially ruined. Their lives have been ruined. They paid a severe price. It's Donald Trump's position that they paid enough. And that's his prerogative as the president. I don't like the idea that people who assaulted police officers are getting any kind of leniency, because I think that is a special kind of crime. I'm a strong defender of police officers, and I do take the term law and order and back the blue very seriously. But there's no political benefit for Trump to do this. This isn't a particularly popular thing to do. However, I would point out he did campaign on it. He made it perfectly clear what he intended to do. And he followed through on it. I do think and hope that this now will put this behind us, that this is over. The American people have adjudicated this in the election as a political matter, and hopefully it never, ever happens again in this country. I would just humbly and respectfully submit to you all that if this is the conversation you intend to have and the script you intend to read for the next 4 years, you are going to continue to get politically punished by the American people who are desperate to look into the future and not continue to wring hands
Listen,
about
the
the
only
I'm
person,
sorry.
the
that is your
only
reality.
person who brought this up today, Scott, was Donald Trump. Okay, he was the one who put it on the agenda. He was the one who pardoned all these people. He did not have to do that.
No,
he didn't have to do it,
Well,
and
he
did
promised
it.
he was going to
so
do
when
it.
you talk about looking forward, why isn't he looking forward?
He is looking forward, and I think what he would say is, I'm trying to put this behind us, and Democrats and the media are continuing to try to make this the center of our national political conversation.
I
I'm trying to put this behind us.
Tomorrow, Donald Trump will still talk about him winning the 2020 election and still talk about January 6th.
I don't think that guy is long for CNN. I don't know how long his contract is with them, but I'm going to guess, unless it's like massively lucrative, this guy's going independent. He's had such a great year. He's the only reason any Republican should tune in to CNN at this point. But he's not just a token Republican on the channel. He's actually smart and he's actually great. He's a great follow on Twitter. The man's got a great future ahead of him. I hope he leaves this network and does his own thing independently, because that would be great. And probably way more financially lucrative. Now let's get to Rachel Madcow and the MSNBC gang not doing well at all.
But this is day one, unfolding pretty much the way we expected it to. And yes, this is novel in American history, but it is also knowable in world history, because it's the same stuff every other would-be authoritarian leader does in every country that has had to contend with a leader like that. And as Americans, you know, we've had bad inaugurations before, including the one where one of the principals was too drunk to stand. We've had blatant cash in envelopes to the vice president corruption before. We've had political violence before. We've had civil war. But before, each of those things has been treated as a calamity and a scandal. This time, it's a platform. This is textbook authoritarian takeover 101 tactics, which means today and literally over the next few days, they're going to see what they can get away with and how much they can cow people into not opposing what they're doing and not speaking out about what's wrong with it. More than ever, this is not a time to pretend this isn't happening. You're going to want to have a good answer when you get asked what you did for your country when your country started to take a turn this radical. We are here. It is happening in our lifetimes. Well, we are citizens responsible for the fate of our country. All hands on deck.
Can I ask you, because on that point, I want to get you to respond to this, because what I'm already hearing from people who work for Trump and are his allies is that there's really no leg for the Democrats don't have a leg to stand on, because President Biden leaving today, issued a raft of pardons, including for his own family members and his sister and his brothers and their spouses, and then also for an activist, an elderly activist who is convicted of killing 2 FBI agents. Chris Wray did not even want him to commute that sentence that President Biden did today. They say that doesn't give Democrats an argument here to criticize these pardons. What is your response to that?
I mean, I think that's the mistake we're seeing now, is people trying to reduce this to tribalism. This is not about Democrat or Republican. Joe Biden pardoned a lot of people. Yeah, he should answer for that and explain what he did and his reasoning. But the people he pardoned, his family members, did not, before the naked public eye, beat police officers, try to overthrow our government, lead to the death of police officers, and have injuries, scars, both visible and invisible, on police officers that are still affecting their lives today. This is not about left or right in our country. We can't just say this is a tit for tat, or their side did it so my side can do it. No, this is about the values and principles that we should all be looking to uphold, the institutions of our government themselves, that these people on that day tried to overthrow. Let's stop with the rank partisanship. The President of the United States of America has just pardoned people who physically attacked, violently led to the death of officers like Sicknick, and we should be talking about that.
It was interesting to me. I was texting with a lot of Democrats from across the country, state legislative leaders, because this fight is going to be in the states. As much as we look at Congress, America's policy is made in the state legislatures. And one senior Dem state legislator from out west texted me and said, he literally just let his private militia out of jail. He said he's instilled a sense of loyalty. These people feel loyal to him, and their lawlessness is now going to go unchecked, and he can now call on them again to do what they would like. So I know a lot of Democrats have mixed feelings about the president's preemptive pardon of his family specifically.
Oh, President Biden.
President Biden. Yeah, a lot of presidents around here. Steph, we got to be specific now. And I understand the concerns that people had, but I also understand what the president said is that you know, the incoming President Trump, has promised a special prosecutor to go after, look into the Biden family. And so what he did is respond to the climate. If the lawmakers don't like it, put a check on the president and pass a bill, okay? And curb the pardon powers. But until that happens...
Oh, let's go. Guys, if you don't mind, before we get to the harpies of The View giving us their out-of-touch takes, if you don't mind just smashing that thumbs up button for your boy, that really goes a long way to help me out. And also, if you're not yet subscribed and this is not your first time here, hopefully this will be the video which I can earn your subscription. Let's get back to it.
But the one thing that I did think about was the hypocrisy of having a man be inaugurated to be president on the same day as we commemorate MLK. And that same man saying that he was going to get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
The irony of it.
The irony of it, because Martin Luther King not only wanted racial equality, he wanted economic equality. And that is something that people tend to miss. And I want to remind people that he said that Black Americans deserved reparations for the injustices they faced. He argued that reparations were a form of justice, in fact, not charity. And he said, quote, "It's all right to tell a man to lift himself by his own bootstraps, but it is cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps." And so in thinking about that, and Donald Trump saying things that this country would be a meritocracy, you're talking about a man who didn't become the president of the United States because of merit. He hasn't he had no political experience whatsoever. He had no business experience. He was given everything that he has. He is a legacy hire. He is, if anything, a DEI hire, a didn't earn it hire. And so, you know, those were just some of the things that I was thinking about.
So nobody who stood up on January 6th and January 7th and condemned what happened there, which was an act of treason. It was an insurrection. I don't care what you're going to call it. I don't care how you want to whitewash it. Nobody who stood up and condemned that and is today silent after those pardons should be able to look at themselves in the mirror, because you have no morals.
Just the speech part. A lot of the revelry, it was hard because this is not someone I voted for, so I did not feel like sitting around and watching it. But the speech itself, I remember when it was done, my first reaction was, you know, what is this country he speaks of? Because I immediately couldn't reconcile the way I see the country and the people and how it is right now and where he saw it. He didn't say carnage, but he said carnage pretty much in everything else. Do you remember the reference from his first inauguration when he said carnage? I just kind of felt this dark feeling. And then he had this kind of martyr-like, you guys are downtrodden and almost irreparable. You can't save this place, but I can. And it had this godlike complex without any Jesus qualities. It was kind of like a juxtaposition. But I was really disappointed, not surprised, just to be clear, but disappointed that there wasn't one kind thing to say about the outgoing administration, because even
au contraire, he was merciless to the outgoing.
That's my point. That's my point. Even if you find it really hard, there could have been. They spent the morning together. They had a welcome tea. President Biden and Vice President Harris did everything we all criticized Donald Trump throughout the door. They did all the traditions of handing off the baton. And he couldn't even muster up one small thing to say, thank you for kindly welcoming us back or something. It was a kind of a gut punch of sorts.
Yeah, I just wanted to just put a quick button on it because I was not offended by Biden pardoning his family because I think, just like Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you or tells you who they are, believe them the first time. Right. We've already had a Trump presidency. We know that this administration is a vengeful one. We know this is a vengeful man. And if I can protect me and mine, I would do that. And so I think we need to show Joe Biden some grace. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about that a lot of people are talking about is that there are these black performers. You mentioned that there were entertainers at the inauguration. There are these black performers that were performing for Snoop Dogg, Nelly, a couple of others. And I saw Keith Boykin, a friend of mine, say something that I thought was really important, and I wanted to play that clip.
If you look at Donald Trump, the man who would refuse to rent to black people in the 1970s, who tried to lead a lynch mob against 5 black and brown kids in the 1980s for the Central Park case, who refused to allow black casino workers to have a prominent place in his casinos in Atlantic City in the 1990s, who spent 5.5 years lying about Barack Obama's birth certificate in the 2000s, who came into office and then attacked black people like Colin Kaepernick, who attacked Ruby Freeman and her daughter Shay Moss for simply doing their jobs as Fulton County election workers. You dishonor those people when you go and perform for this man who has done nothing but dishonor black people.
So, for me, even though I didn't watch any of the balls or anything, I think what Keith said is so important for us to remember, that this is who Donald Trump is.
Yeah, I like how the blonde, what's her name, Sarah, says that, oh, Trump didn't have any nice things to say about Biden. Normally people have nice things to say about the outgoing president. The guy raided his home. He was in charge of prosecuting him. He had this big witch hunt against Trump. What's he going to say about him? It'd be very, very hard for anyone to forgive someone for something like that, especially if that person has never asked for forgiveness. Biden's never came out and said, like, oh, we're sorry we raided Mar-a-Lago. The FBI took his wife outside, raided his home. That's never happened. I mean, there's a reason he did all those pardons right before Trump got in. Something fishy was afoot. I mean, Biden, a career criminal, let's face it, his whole family is rich just because this guy was a politician. His brothers, his sisters, pardons everybody except for his wife. What are you going to say nice about somebody like that? The guy's ruined the country. Absolutely ludicrous. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button for your boy. Consider subscribing to the channel. Help it grow. Catch you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.